So, it's been a while. I thought about making more videos every now and again, but between being busy with university, my previous computer exploding, writing the script taking longer than expected, and somehow the editing even longer, I ended up taking a lot longer to do this than I thought. This time, however, I'm gonna be doing things slightly differently. Last time I tried to go for a semi-objective while still hopefully funny review type of video that was short and anyone could watch. But this time I'm just gonna ramble on for a while without much structure. I'm pleased with the result of that last video, but really all it was meant to be was an attempt at doing a game review like the ones I've seen, so I could look back on it and think, wow, I did that. And that's the thing. At the end of the day, I'm not really looking to make content for other people to watch. It's meant to be a record of a particular time of my life. Something for me to look back on and remind me of the things I did at the time. Basically, I'm doing this for myself. Something which is especially true considering that probably the only people watching this are myself and maybe a few friends. In any case, I'm going to be talking about pretty much everything that I played last year for a significant amount of time. Some of them I played for the first time, while others I just went back to get achievements. I'll point out which is which in a little title card thingy for each one. We're going to be doing this in order of when I played each game, giving my general thoughts on them and why I think they're fun, which can range from less than a minute to 10 minutes by itself depending on the game, and how much meaningful commentary I feel like I can add. And to spice things up a little bit, I'm also going to be placing them on a tier list based on how good of a time I had with them. It's going to be really long, so if you do plan on watching or listening to this, maybe take some breaks from time to time rather than just watching this in one go. I won't be spoiling much about most of the games I'll be showing, but obviously for some of the story-focused ones, but that's a big source of my enjoyment, I'm going to have to mention at least a few details. Nothing major, but if you prefer to go completely blind on any of these games, maybe skip those sections. Alright, finally, with all of that said, we start the year off with Gris. Gris is a short puzzle platformer with super pretty visuals, which it uses to tell its story. But here's the thing. I'm not exactly the best person to talk about its deeper meaning. Mostly because I'm an idiot who isn't very good at interpreting or being engaged by stories told in non-conventional ways. However, even if I'm not smart enough to interpret this game the way the developers intended, I still felt satisfied trying to make sense of what I saw and reaching my own conclusion about the game's meaning. And even outside of that, it's still a fine game. The gameplay won't blow you away or anything, it's rather simple, but it's still nice and relaxing, especially paired with the previously mentioned beautiful visuals that can stand as beautiful art pieces on their own. At the end of the day, there's always some Reddit thread explaining exactly what everything in the game means, so I would still recommend the game, even to the artistically oblivious. B tier. So there I was, unhappy with the current state of Pokemon games and how lazy and broken they are, and thought, hey, I should try one of the old console games. I've never played any of them. And what a better place to start than with the first of them all, Pokemon Stadium. I'm sure I'll have a great time. Now, admittedly, I played this game in the worst way possible. The game is essentially just a battle simulator, there's no world to explore or anything, just battles. And the whole gimmick of the game is that you could connect your Game Boy Pokemon games to the N64 using the transfer pack, and transfer your Pokemon from your save files into the game, and you battle with them in the game with, unironically, some of the most expressive Pokemon animations this series has seen. Though that's not really that amazing of a feat, the bar is pretty low. However, let's just say I didn't exactly play this game on an N64. And though there was probably a way for me to use my own custom Pokemon if I'd looked it up, I didn't really bother doing that, and just used the rental Pokemon, the alternative for people who don't have their own Pokemon. The thing is, there's a small problem with these. Their movesets are utter dog shit. I don't know if this was done on purpose or if they just randomly picked moves they thought were cool, but point is, half of the Pokemon are just completely invalidated due to a shitty moveset alone. I suppose outside of that, the game's fine, and supposing you actually use your own Pokemon, it's probably a lot of fun. The only other bad thing I can mention is that the battles, though yes, look much better than the mainline games, are also a lot slower. It was a cool concept for the time, but at this point, if you just want a Pokemon battle simulator, you should probably just play something like Pokemon Showdown instead. D tier. I'm gonna be totally honest here. This game is terrible. It's a racing game where you can barely move anywhere but forward. You can go in a straight line just fine, but the moment you try to do some of the sharp turns within the tracks, you're either gonna be ramming into a wall repeatedly, or you're gonna have to stop completely, waiting for your character to slowly rotate towards the direction you wanna go. Not to mention, this game is barely any content. There's only 5 tracks, and you can easily unlock everything within the game in less than 2 hours. But here's the thing. I never said I was gonna be fair and objective with my tier list, and it's based entirely on how much fun I had with playing the game. And it just so happens that I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, due to playing it on the Sonic Gems collection when I was young. So because of this, I ended up having a lot more fun with it than I probably should. And despite the controls not being great, it's not like they make the game unplayable, you just really have to get used to it. Also, I don't care what anyone says, the soundtrack absolutely slaps. It's super cheesy and dumb, but I love it anyways. B tier. I only wish the game had more content. Not much to say here. It's a 99-cent game where you can see everything it has in 15 minutes. It's really just a small demo for the next game, which is... probably one of the weirdest games I've ever played. It's about this girl with some sort of a mental illness where you are the... how do I put this? You're the voice inside her head that appears when she takes medicine to help her feel better. It's definitely a unique concept, and me personally, I enjoyed going through the multiple endings and reading stuff online to try and make some sense of the story. It's very much the type of media that will just throw weird, confusing metaphorical scenes at you and then expects you to make out the meaning behind them. However, I should warn that the game is a little bit on the short side, like really short. I saw everything it had in 3 hours, and for $8, it may be a bit too much of an asking price. B tier. Unravel is another quirky puzzle platformer game like Gris that tells its story without a single line of dialogue. Though I would say it's a lot more obvious in what it wants to say. Its main gimmick is that your character is made out of string, and leaves a trail behind that you can use to get through various obstacles. You can create bridges to carry things, pull yourself up with your own string tail, or use it to hook onto things. It's pretty cool. It's rather short, but a good chill time nonetheless. B tier. Oh, you thought that because the first game was all cute and relaxing and slow that the sequel will be like that? Right, so although this game also has puzzles like the first one, there's a lot more emphasis on pure platforming and going fast compared to the last one. Especially considering there's now medals for clearing levels under certain times, and the deadlines are really tight. Me personally, I prefer this is the more methodical, slower gameplay of the first game. And I haven't even mentioned how you can also play this one with a friend. Everyone knows that a game automatically becomes more fun with co-op. Though it's designed to also be perfectly playable with one player, so if you don't have any friends, that's okay, you'll be fine. A tier. After an agonizing wait of 4 years since its announcement, MDHR finally blessed us with DLC for one of the best indie games out there. Cuphead is already a fantastic game by itself, and the DLC is just more of that, the exact same level of quality, if not higher. I cannot come up with any criticism for this game. It's got that unique visual style that no other game has due to how much of a pain in the ass it is to do, a fantastic jazzy soundtrack, and amazing, tough but fair bosses. They never feel impossible, and it's addicting to make it just a little further with each attempt. Though, mind you, despite there being no punishment for dying other than trying the boss again from the beginning, it can obviously still be a little bit frustrating if you let it get to you. Maybe take a break every once in a while if you're having trouble with a particular fight. But please, whatever you do, never give up! Because that sweet dopamine hit from a successful knockout after mastering said boss is totally worth it. They may kick your ass, but that will only make your win more satisfying. S tier. This is a game where your best friend is a levitating banana with a smiley face on it named Pedro that tells you to brutally murder everybody in your way while looking as sick as humanly possible as you do it. You can do parkour, slow down time, have bullets bounce off of metal pans, ride skateboards into guys' faces. You get the idea. This game is insane. Now, if you want to, you can just go through the levels in whichever way you want, beat the game, and be done with it in a couple of hours. Because even though it is fun, it's really short. However, if you really want to make the most of this game, I heavily recommend going for those S ranks. Getting an S rank isn't just about getting by and trying not to die until you reach the end of the level. It's about totally and completely mastering said level, killing enemies one after another without hesitating to keep your combo up, pulling off clutch last-second dodges and knowing exactly what you're going to do after each and every move. It's the search for perfection that will truly make you feel like the creative badass this game wants you to feel like. A tier. I even have my own Pedro now. It's a social deduction game where among the team of innocent players trying to survive and collecting cards to open the elevator and continue the game are two imposters. Just like in the hit game Among Us. It's pretty funny to push people and watch them flop around with the silly ragdoll physics. Not to mention proximity voice chat is always funny. But outside of that, I don't really have much to say. It's fun for a while, provided you have a group of friends to play with and don't go full try hard. You know, have some fun with it. B tier. Okay, what you're probably thinking right now is, what the fuck is Polyball? I didn't know what it was either, but it was free to keep on Steam for a while, so I thought, fuck it, why not? And decided to try it out randomly while going through my backlog months later. Anyways, as you can tell by the footage, it's a platformer where you play as a ball, where correctly using your momentum is key to beating the game, kinda like Super Monkey Ball. Except that game is way better in my opinion. Not like this one's bad or anything, I had some fun with it, though I think some of the levels are a bit too long, which is pretty annoying considering this is the type of game where one small mistake can kill you, and it often takes you many tries to beat some of the harder levels. So, you know, having to replay a long, easy section you already cleared before is pretty annoying. Other than that, though, it's fine. Again, having played Super Monkey Ball, which in my opinion feels, looks, and sounds better, this just feels like a downgrade, but it's still pretty fun, and considering I got it for free, I can't really complain. B tier. Postal 2 is a game about creating chaos from the mundane. Most of the objectives in this game are boring day-to-day chores. But don't you worry, because one way or another, be it your fault or not, things are gonna go wrong. Gotta buy milk at the store? Well, you can wait in line and pay for it, or you can just steal it and get chased by the police instead. Gotta make a withdrawal at the bank? You can wait in line, only for the place to be robbed and for you to have to kill the criminals. Or fuck it, you can be the criminal and rob the bank yourself. Maybe you won't even make it to the bank because you got distracted killing civilians with a shovel, stealing shit from all the houses in the neighborhood, getting cats to use the silencers for your guns, all before being killed by the cops. You get the idea. The game lets you do whatever the hell you want and nothing in it makes sense. You can finish the game killing everyone you see or without killing a single person. If you know what you're doing, you can beat it in less than 2 hours, but if you're gonna mess around, you can take as long as you want. The combat's okay, nothing special, but it works, and the game obviously doesn't take itself seriously. You can get a lot of enjoyment from the ridiculous dialogue. It's pretty fun. B tier. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention there's dedicated piss in unzipped pants button. To say I didn't play this game under ideal circumstances would be a big understatement. It's been years since I played base Half-Life 2 in episode 1, and honestly the games didn't leave a big impression on me, even at the time. So naturally, I remembered very little from the plot. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I thought Half-Life 2 was a bad game or anything. There were parts I genuinely really enjoyed, but there were others that honestly had me sleeping. I feel like maybe I'm going a bit hard on this game. I remember seeing it often on top 10 games of all time lists and hearing about how much it changed and innovated the industry. So I'm willing to admit that maybe the issue was my modern gamer brain rot, or the fact that I played Gmod and fucked around with all the characters and guns for hours before actually playing Half-Life. Anyways, episode 2 was fine, I suppose. Even without really caring about the plot at all, I still had a decent time with it. The shooting in this game hasn't aged all that well, and it isn't the most satisfying I've seen, which to me is a very important aspect when it comes to FPSs, but it's good enough. B tier. Right, so I saw this big video essay about this game, and when I say big, I mean it's literally 3 hours long. It's made by Soviet Womble, and he goes into extreme detail not just about the forest, but many other survival games and even software development in general. But TLDR, what he points out in the video is that the forest's biggest problem is that if looked at from the surface, the game's pretty good. But the moment you start asking questions and really thinking about what you're seeing, the game falls apart. It does really well in some aspects. The caves are absolutely terrifying. They're really good at using the pitch black darkness and all the echoey ambient noises against you, especially when it's paired up with the cannibal enemies that like to charge you and run back into the darkness. Or with mutants, which are just straight up fucking terrifying. Not to mention the game also has a dope base building system that lets you get pretty creative, even if it's kinda unnecessary, and the only reward for building big expensive bases are bragging rights. However, like I mentioned before, it's got some issues. First of all, any and all major progression or unlocks in the game happen exclusively in the caves, which you have no way to find other than just randomly exploring the map, hoping to find an often very hidden entrance. And there's not a lot to see up here. It's a forest, it's the name of the game. What do you think? The point is, there's not really much to accomplish outside of the caves other than getting resources so you can go back into the cave. The actual cool things in the game are disconnected from the main world. There's sort of a story to follow, which, again, if looked at from the surface, it's fine. A bunch of people have been on this forest and all of them have died.
It's spooky.
But then you think about it for a bit, and it's like, wait, how come these tents made by missionaries from literal hundreds of years ago survived this long? Or, God knows how many people from the modern age have died in here, so how come there hasn't been an international investigation of this place? It's a pretty flawed game, but at the end of the day, the caves do a good job of being scary, and it's a pretty good experience if you look up a map with all the caves. Oh, and also look up all the crafting recipes. No hints about any of those either other than just randomly mixing shit until this cog is full. But it's fine. A lot of survival games are like that. You can also play with friends, and having multiplayer in games is like a cheat code to make them fun, even if they suck. B tier. This was the one game I played this year that was so incredibly boring that not only could I not bother to finish it all, I even refunded it because of how little I played it before I got bored. From the small bits of gameplay I've seen, I thought this was going to be one of those fun tycoon expansion games where you upgrade, automate, and expand stuff till you get like a billion of every resource every second. Well, maybe it's like that at some point, but I'll never find out, because until you get there, this game is a boring slog of using your crappy little pickaxe that takes way more hits than it should to get even the most basic of materials. Even with upgrades, the thing still takes forever, and when you're not slowly getting resources with it, you're waiting. Yeah, waiting for the resources you need to progress to spawn. Eventually. Randomly. How fun. You can buy new islands to explore or get resources from, but odds are, it'll have something to interact with that requires a resource you don't have, or that would take a stupidly long time to get. There's XP in the perk tree for learning how to build new structures, but half the time you'll unlock one, see that you don't have the resources to build it, and go, well, time to go back to the mindless resource collecting, I guess. Yeah, no thanks. When I was already so bored after only 2 hours of gameplay and saw just how many islands and perk I had left to unlock, I knew there was no chance I was gonna force myself to finish the game. Maybe if I stuck around for a few more hours, the ball would have started rolling and I would have enjoyed myself, but if that's the case, that ball took way too long. D tier. Oh, also, apparently the dev is an asshole and abandoned development for this game, so it's not even properly finished. I can't even recommend giving it a shot. Alright, maybe it's a bit hypocritical to say I like this game after shitting on Forager so hard for being mindless and boring, even though this game is equally if not more mindless. But whatever, I don't care, my brain likes what it likes and this is my list, fuck you. You've probably seen one of these games at this point. There's a billion enemies around you, your character attacks automatically, and all you really have to do is go around picking up the XP the enemies drops, you level up, get stronger attacks, to kill more enemies, to get more XP, to get stronger and kill more enemies, and you get the point. It's a big number, good number type of game that just taps into some subconscious part of your brain that enjoys that for no particular reason. The one bit of depth I would say this game has is with the decision making when it comes to the level ups of your character. You should always be working towards creating combos, basically having certain combinations of abilities, usually 2 but sometimes 3, all at max level lets you combine them all into one super ability that's super overpowered. And these are key to surviving till the end and accessing the endgame content. Other than that though, this game is just dumb fun. Just shut off your brain and have fun for an hour or two. The only thing I don't recommend is playing it for more than a few hours at a time, or else it can get quite stale. B tier. Far Cry 3 is one of my favorite games and was incredibly praised at the time, but despite that, it took me a really long time to actually start playing the other games in the franchise. Namely because I heard that after Far Cry 3, Ubisoft realized they had a good game formula on their hands and just stopped making any major changes with each following entry. After playing this game, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a good game because it's very similar to the previous game, and it's got a few new additions like how you can now shoot while you're inside a car and I don't know, elephants? The story for this game is really mediocre and suffers from literally the exact same issues as the previous game. Once again, we have a super cool villain that everyone loves, but that unfortunately barely gets any screen time whatsoever. Last time it was Vaz, this time it's Pagan. There's this new system where sometimes you get to choose which of your 2 friends, leaders of the resistance you want to help, each one of them having different priorities and a different vision for what they want the region of Kyrat to be like. And to be fair, the idea is pretty cool, but in practice, I didn't care about any of them because they barely get any screen time, so it didn't really matter to me. I guess it at least adds a little bit of replay value if you ever decide to do a second playthrough. And then again, you don't play a Far Cry game for the story. You play it for the gameplay. And in that regard, it's still just as fun. The shooting and weapons feel very satisfying and the game gives you a lot of options on how you want to approach situations. You can stealth around with a bow and silenced weapon, or you can go in guns blazing with every explosive weapon known to man. It did get a little tedious capturing all the outposts towards the end, but to be fair, you don't have to do that, and I feel like a lot of that feeling comes from you playing the previous game so much already. To sum it up, if you already played another Far Cry game, I think you're perfectly fine staying with the one you got. There's not much of a reason to play this one, but otherwise it's a pretty fun game, and at least try it out if you haven't played any of the other ones. B tier. This game should not be fun. It's a game about being a border checkpoint officer checking people's documents. It's quite literally just a job, not even an exciting one. But somehow, the game is fun, or I should say, it's engaging. It doesn't have a lot of action in the traditional sense, but what it does have are challenges to your morality and beliefs, by placing you in dilemmas without a clear correct choice. With the problem usually being, do you do your job like you're supposed to in order to provide for your family, or will you show kindness and help a random stranger, even though there may or may not be any benefit for yourself? There's also something very strangely satisfying about quickly going through people's documents without making a mistake. I don't think it's because there's something inherently satisfying about it, I think it's more because of how fucking annoying it is to receive a penalty. God, that sound ruins my day. Oh, and also, the main theme goes hard. Glory to Arstotzka. A tier. This is another one of those games I mentioned at the beginning where I have very little to say. It's a free-to-play sort of racing game. The winner is based on who does the fastest lap, not on who comes first. So all you need to do is one good lap during the match time to win. It's fun to mess around in with friends for a while, but it doesn't really have much content or people playing online, so that's really your only option if you ever want to enjoy this game. It's a nice game to kill an hour or two if you don't know what else to do, especially because it's free so you don't lose anything by trying it out. And there's something strangely cozy about the pre-game lobby area, though I don't really know what it is. The Starry Night box is really pretty, I guess. That's about it. I've ran out of things to say, so C tier. I'm the type of gamer that likes to play, or at least tries to, as big of a variety of games as possible. But obviously there are genres that I prefer, or find less interesting than others. But there's only one genre that keeps me away, not because it's tedious or I don't enjoy it, but because I just straight up suck at it too much to play it. AKA, I have a massive skill issue. Pretty much any fighting game with motion inputs, so, you know, basically all of them, are an instant no for me, because I just cannot do these moves consistently and reliably enough to save my life. Because of this, the only fighting games that I can decently play are usually platform fighters, which is hilarious because it makes me perfectly fit the stereotypical Smash player that cries if he hears the words quarter circle forward. Now, the reason why I'm saying all this is so I can mention how, despite me being a talentless fuck in this regard, I can still play and have a good time with Tekken. You can customize and bind your controls if need be, and call me a pleb for using this, but the quick assist button is very much appreciated. I know a lot of people won't agree with that, but I honestly don't think I would have had such a good time with the game if it wasn't for them. Like I said, I'm not an expert when it comes to fighting games, so I feel like I'm not fit to give any useful criticism or analysis, but what I can say is that the game is full of content and includes a ton of characters. All of them with a massive wall of billions of moves, which I personally think, rather than feel overwhelming, really help you create combos due to all the possibilities. The soundtrack of the game is also really good. and even now with Tekken 8 about to release, update. Tekken 8 has been out for a while and has invalidated this entire section of the script, so instead the only thing left to say is, although, you know, at this point maybe buy Tekken 8 instead. B tier. Mordhau is a medieval warfare game that, at least for a casual experience, does a lot of things right. Getting kills feels incredibly satisfying. It shows you the points you got, you get to see the bloody mess you made out of the enemy, and the sound of your blade cutting through their armor and body.
In-game now, obviously.
The combat seems to have a lot of depth, and there are people who take it very seriously and know how to properly play this game. But even as a new player, you can still do pretty good. It's very much an easy to learn, hard to master type of game. There are also a lot of different weapons and loadouts for you to try out, so you have a lot of room to experiment and trying to find a build that you jive with. And another thing this game does pretty well is with the number of players in a match. Sure, there are bigger matches out there in some other games, but still, running together with your army towards the enemy while all of you do your war cries, and then seeing every inch of the battlefield turn into a complete shitstorm of death, it's a really cool feeling. The only con I can really think of for this game is that I'm unsure of how healthy the player base is. I played this game on the
Epic Games
store
where games are epicness.
shortly after it was offered for free, so naturally there was a big influx of new players at the time and I didn't really notice anything wrong. However, it has been a while since then, and there are apparently a lot of sweats in the community, so I don't know, maybe be a bit wary of that and investigate a little bit before you buy the game. Or, you know, in the case you got it for free on Epic and just didn't try it out, please do. It's a lot of fun. B tier. What? What's happening? Right, so I'm finally going to explain why I put sort of in the title. Simply put, this was all the progress I was able to make up until now. And unfortunately, I still have all these other games to talk about, many of these being the biggest segments of the video. For some added context, I started working on this video around November of last year, naively thinking that I could finish this video around the beginning of this year. I mean, I was able to make a review of 3 games last time in only a couple of days. Surely writing, I don't know, 50 different reviews along with getting footage for all of these games won't be a problem. As you can tell by the fact that I'm uploading this in April, obviously the scope and work for this video was way higher than I imagined. And obviously between editing, I still have a bunch of other things to take care of, namely my engineering degree, but also less important things like actually playing video games. Because a lot of my free time this year has been spent editing, I haven't actually been playing a lot of games. Again, we are a third into this year and this is all I've played. Granted, I 100% of this one and this one is multiplayer, but still. My backlog is begging me to come back. Point is, there are other things I need or want to dedicate my time to, so I feel like I should change my approach. My plan was to make one of these videos every year, but clearly looking at every game I played in a year is too much work. So instead I was thinking of maybe doing like a top 10 thing, or at the very least just narrowing the list down to only the 10 or 20 games I consider more memorable or fun. Do I plan on going back to and finishing this video and talking about all the other games on this list? Yeah, probably. I mean, I have all the reviews written, I can just start editing whenever I have time or motivation to do so. But before I do that, or any other video, I need to ask, was this video entertaining at all? And would you want to watch more like it? I know I said that I'm making this for myself, but I still do appreciate any feedback since it will help me improve and more easily make something I'm proud of. Anyways, I think that's it. This video wasn't as long as I wanted it to be, but it was nonetheless pretty fun to make. Thank you for watching it all the way through. It means a lot, and feel free to tell me what you think I should do. I think narrowing the list is for the best, but if you'd prefer to just wait longer instead, tell me. So, yeah. Bye.